Hello and welcome again to my channel. This is your host Francesco. Tonight we're gonna introduce and have the recording of the session that we had in July with all the industry leader. We had OWASP, we had ISSA, and we had ISSA. It was a great session. We got grilled by the industry, we got grilled by the audience, and I hope you enjoy. Welcome.
Exciting part where we get to grill the leaders of the. Oh no, sorry, just ask questions. So can the panel take the stage? I am going to ask you to each introduce yourself, but keep it to like 20 seconds. Because I think the audience are going to be very excited about the questions that we'll ask you. So Gabe, do you want to go ahead?
Laura, do you want to sit?
Me?
There you are.
No, I'm going to walk around.
I was going to say, the only one I saw there had a beard and long hair, and you don't have a beard.
No.
So I'm Gabe Chomic. I'm the president of the ISSA UK chapter. I've been in the industry for 15 plus odd years, and I like to be relatively loud from time to time when I have opinions about things. So I might be doing that tonight.
I am Soron, I'm the CTO for X8. We are a data privacy company looking at protecting individual attributes of very, very sensitive data. We are a GDPR compliant data vendor. Can you hear me? So we class ourselves as the ink bomb for data. So what we allow you to do is if you're in a position where you get breached, we are able to ink bomb that data exactly the same way that when you're transferring cash to the vault, you've got a man in his fancy helmet and his bag. There's an ink bomb in that with the cash that's been taken to the vault. If anyone tampers with it along the way, there's an ink bomb that goes up and destroys the cash. We do exactly the same for data.
And I'm Sam Stepanian. I'm an independent security consultant, but also I run Open Web Application Security Project at OWASP London chapter community here in London.
Thanks. I'm Liz Banbury, and I head up the Information and Cybersecurity Policy at Standard Chartered, and I'm the Secretary of the ISSA London chapter. I'm actually relatively new to this industry. It's around just 6 or 7 years now, but hopefully I've got something to add as well.
Hi everybody, Francesco Cipollone. I am, if you want, independent consultant. I run a consultancy company and currently helping HSBC figuring out security, heading up the Cloud Security Alliance here in the UK and helping putting this together. And I think it was the first time we put this one together in the history of UK. Round of applause.
Good achievement. It's good to get everybody together, and it's about time that all of the organisations pull together in London. I'm James Packer. I'm the London chapter president for ISSA. I've been in the industry about 10, 11 years now. I'm a head of cyber at an education company in my normal time, and I'm a true advocate for the industry, our industry, and what we do. So to echo on a lot of what Chani said, a lot of what Adrian said, we don't do ourselves a lot of justice, and so what I advocate in the chapter, and myself personally, is taking action to do something about that. So hence events like this today are super important because actually we're all on the same team.
Cool. So first question is kind of based off what Adrian's presentation. So we obviously give a lot back to the industry by setting up events, by attending events in our free time. But how could we use some of this time and effort to help educate the general public? Anyone want to take
How do you want to handle the 6 of us jumping
Who wants
on
to
this?
take that question? Anyone got any ideas?
I suggest you've got the mic.
So we're all here in our free time. How can
So
we...
I'll take the question. So I think to start with, it's really important that we don't all go to industry events and sit and watch beautiful, pretty slides telling us everything that we already know. Walk away and have a few beers afterwards and think, yeah, cool, we got our cippies. Pretty much. I think it's important that actually every single time that we have an event, there's takeaways and that we actually do something about it. So something that I have seen, both as an individual practitioner, going to big black hats, InfoSecs, all of these wonderful events. They're great and they give me a lot of valuable information as an individual professional. But where's there a call to action? Where's for me to actually do something about it? And actually, to further that is look at how we're doing these events and making them inclusive and making them actionable, practical events that give us the ability to kind of express ourselves as professionals and express our industry in a positive way. So that's certainly within the London chapter, that's something that we try to advocate is don't just sit there and talk at an audience who want to hear about the latest and greatest threats. You can go online and read all that kind of stuff. Actually, the more important point is that we get together and talk about problems and solutions and how to actually do them. So that's my take.
So mine is interact, mentor the hell of things. So China is part of our mentorship program. We run a podcast and we run a community where we mentor students, people get together, engage, talk, and do it in a different way. Do it at events, take somebody that is confused or is around the corner or doesn't want to interact with him, take him on board, or talk with people that are maybe outside our industry, maybe somebody in finance, a junior in finance, or a junior in the marketing industry, or social media expert. We need those people. We need to get them in the industry.
I mean, I totally agree with both those points. Just to echo what James is saying, as part of the London chapter, we're actually open to non-members as well, and that's part of our inclusiveness. And we've had people who have come to us who are just recently left university, who are on graduate programs, and they've come and said, how can we be involved? We want to know more about cybersecurity. And we've said, come along to the chapter. We actually have things that we can involve you in doing. Secondly, along with the kind of mentoring and different backgrounds and other kind of forums that we've been on, I was at a UK cyber strategy workshop the other week, and most of the attendants there, and this was at Whitehall, part of the discussion was, again, how do we get people who are, encourage people who have not got those IT backgrounds, and it turned out that most of us had actually had art backgrounds, had spent our time at school doing art or languages or playing the guitar or whatever it was. And you have to then realise that actually that doesn't mean you're prohibited from these areas, and as you change, as you grow older and change and adapt into different environments, you realise that you become good and interested in other areas as well, and you have to know which avenues are then open.
Just to echo on this, of course this is quite important to engage, and I think what Proctor said. What we do at OWASP, right, because O in OWASP stands for open. Everything we do is open source, so we invite everyone, the entire community, all the attendees of all our events to contribute to all the projects. You don't have to be a cybersecurity professional, you don't have to be a developer. You can contribute to cybersecurity and to improve cybersecurity by reviewing the standards that we currently have, by proposing a new standard, by looking at existing tools that we have. And you don't have to be a techie. You can actually be a technical writer. You can say, I can actually write some documentation for you, because we're always looking for contributors. In the same way, if you are using our open source tools and you're actually finding some issues in it, or you want to propose some features, you can contribute like that. You can just basically go on GitHub and propose new features. So it's all open, it's all collaborative. So number one thing that I think we should take away is, as a community, we have to collaborate and do things together. And again, to reflect back on some of the face-to-face engagement, one of the things that we also do at OWASP, we do something called student chapters. So we go to universities and we talk to year 1 and year 2 computer science and cybersecurity students. We talk to them about OWASP, and obviously some of them come and attend our community events just like this, and we encourage them to run their own chapters, because some of them are coming to us and saying, how do we create our own, like a cybersecurity student society? And we help them, because we invite them to our events, and then we go and we speak at their events, and thus encouraging students actually to present talks on the subjects that they're interested in.
I've got a slightly different take on how we can encourage more people into the cyberspace. When you look at what's happened with data science and artificial intelligence, it's the cool thing to do. Cybersecurity is getting there. I remember reading an article myself recently where they were saying that's the next $1 million job. So there is a real push for people to get more into cybersecurity. But what a data scientist was, historically what a data scientist is a statistician. It's always existed. We've had AI specialists for years. I remember learning it 20 years ago at university. I'm not that old really, but I started really young. But nonetheless, it was glamorizing it ever so slightly is what brought all of the people into it. And it's the next biggest thing. It's associated with revenue. I think with cybersecurity, you can associate it with the fines that go with it. We're seeing a lot more of it now. It's how do you get those additional bonuses for being good, as well as being able to be revenue generating? So I think there are different ways to be able to entice people into the industry, and I think glamorizing it is definitely one of them.
Gabe, I'm going to politely request that you keep your answer short.
Absolutely. I was going to ask if we could try to get try to answer that for all future questions. So we get to a few more. So I'm not going to echo anything anyone said for that reason. The one thing I haven't heard anyone here say on the panel is your colleagues, and I don't mean your colleagues in security. I mean your colleagues sitting nearby who work in general engineering, who work in marketing. I mean, where I work, we have Scrum Masters in HR, so it's slightly different than necessarily all other places, and I still don't quite know how that works, what that means for them. But the point is, people who want to break into the industry are already working, they're sitting near you, and I get questions all the time because they know I work in the community side of the space too about how to break in, and I say come to our events, do stuff like that. So talk to your colleagues, because we need the skills being developed outside of the technical space.
Great. Okay, now I'm going to target my questions. So, I'm going to, first thing I want to talk about is there was a LinkedIn post a couple of weeks ago that I kind of displayed what cybersecurity salaries are in the US. I'm not sure if many of you saw it, but something like for a cloud security architect, they were advertising $400,000. The range was between $200,000 and $400,000. I think amongst me and my cyber friends, it was a little bit like, oh damn, okay, it's time to go to America. So, what kind of impact do you think that would have had, seeing that? What kind of impact do you reckon that would have had on the security workforce here? So Sam,
Country.
what do you think?
No, I think the point of that post was that we need to bring attention to the actual disconnect between UK and the US in order to encourage people in our industry here in the UK to match the salaries. Because I knew about the level of cybersecurity salaries in the US being much, much higher for years, because a friend of mine works in Netflix and cybersecurity then, when he was saying, Sam, why are your salaries so low? It's like, well, why is your salary so high? I said, well, there's a demand. If you come to Silicon Valley, you can go to Microsoft, or you can go to Netflix, or you can go to Facebook, and I don't know, because I asked him, how did you manage to buy a $3 million house? It was so cool. I just bought it. So, and then I realized what the problem is. And I think Adrian just mentioned a very interesting job ad, right? So he said, sometimes you see job ads for some really ridiculous amount of money and ridiculous amount of skills. So you need to have a 5 years experience, have a CISSP certification, and also the be an experienced analyst, and the job only pays £29,000. This is just nuts. This is just crazy. And I think we need to change that. And the recruiter that I know, he moved to the States and he started posting things on LinkedIn. Because usually, unlike the UK, US companies don't usually put their salaries anywhere. Here, when we apply for a job, usually it says cybersecurity analyst, salary this much. Okay. In the US, it never works like this. They just advertise the role, and then you have to apply to find out what the salary is. So I think by exposing the actual level of salaries, I think we need to understand and attract. I think this will only be to bring a positive impact. We need to attract more people. Adrian, when he was showing his example, he said that every year, year on year, 60% less students take ICT, computer science, and cybersecurity. Why they're going? Which other industry is attracting young people? Which other industry is paying more? Which other industry is motivating people more? Right? So by making sure that we match the salaries, I think we'll at least provide the financial motivation.
James, if your comment is short, you can say something.
I was going to say Fortnite gaming is the other industry.
Would anyone in the audience?
I'll give up cybersecurity to play Fortnite all day. Just kidding.
Which university provides the degree?
Unless there's no kind of desperate comments from the audience. Yeah?
Can I echo Gabe's point? We're talking to ourselves. We're all in massive agreement. We need to be at the other events. We need to be at the Institute of Chartered Accountants. We need to be lecturing to visiting lecturing to MBA courses. And I'm guilty of that. I've been visiting lecturing at 2 outfits, talking to their cybersecurity, but very aware that's the less than 1% of the university population. We're not getting our message, our secure by design, think security to the wider population.
Get on Love Island.
So I think that's the point.
Don't watch it in the first one.
And I think to add on top of that, and then I'll pass it to Gabe, we need to get the students out to those events to change their mindset. And I personally have participated in a lot of events because it's easy to talk cyber to cyber people, but it's very difficult to communicate a cyber problem to people that don't talk cyber all day. We use a lot of jargon, we use a lot of complex, lengthy things. The slides are full of points. I use 3 points, or sometimes I don't use any. Like Channing didn't use much point. Those are key skills that we need to learn and communicate to the youngsters. They may be getting more than us.
So actually, I have a strong opinion on something you said there, so we'll get that. Sorry.
No wonder.
He was right. I didn't think I was going to speak. This is tangential, but you mentioned the acronyms, you mentioned complex jargon, you mentioned the terms. And so possibly a topic shift, but one of the challenges I think all of us as leaders in the field in growing our teams have to do is figure out that remember at all times that the industry we built was invented by nerds. They didn't build the internet to be secure. We know that, we talk about it all the time. We invented terms that made no bloody sense because they were cool at the time. We used to name our servers funny, cool names because we could, and no one in the business would find out. I can yell too, but I can yell louder than that. But we're no longer in that world, and we're now asking for our profession to be adopted by people who think that's child's play because it was at the time. And we need to realize that we're shaping the perception of our industry with our colleagues, but also shaping the perception of our industry with those we mentor, so that we can help change this particular pattern. So I don't need another architectural document with 5 pages of glossary because, well, someone has to understand it.
Okay, thank you. This is an open question, but I want you to try and keep your answers short. I think it's relevant talking about communication, and following what Stu said about we invite people to sit in security training and then expect them to be experts. So we complain that people aren't listening, that they aren't listening to us, and that they don't understand security. But is it because we are still not actually communicating well enough?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah. So what can we do? How do we change our game? How do we start to communicate?
Toastmaster.
Sorry?
Look outside the industry. Look what other people are doing to communicate better. Toastmaster is a great example. So it's cheap, is a way to get involved, is a great way to learn, is a great way to network and to get other people involved. So I participate in Toastmaster, we challenge each other on actually just to speak. And I do a lot of cybersecurity talk because in my room there are people that don't talk cyber at all. So if I manage to get my message across to them, and if I manage to get a level up on cyber, I reach a point. I reach the people.
Stu, can you shout?
I've got a good point. So you talk about terminologies, you talk about technical terminologies, it's about conceptualizing, you talk about in analogies and concepts. People understand ideas, understand analogies, you can relate technical concepts and turn them into analogies that people can relate to. Message, the technical jargon gets lost, it gets adopted by people. They don't think about the technical jargon, they think about what the impact of that is in a language that they understand, the language that they talk in.
So Bruce Ferber's Analogies project has been doing that for years, but I think we need to dive into that. And it's a good project, and people should check it out. I keep trying to coordinate with him, but I'm rubbish at actually responding to email, and it doesn't help. But I think we need to dive into that deeper. I'm sorry for co-opting the two people who tried to speak. It's not just about the analogies, that is very much on communication, using analogies, finding rules, but why do analogies work is a question that I haven't seen us answer much. And I think, and I'm seeing this come up a lot more on Twitter in the last few months, as people seem to be figuring this out, and it's not you, no. Framing. The aspect of systems thinking that you're sometimes taught in social science courses and critical thinking and all that, we need to understand the technical frames that the people we're talking to, the organizational frames of reference they use to understand, and then we can match their analogies. If we don't know their world, how can our word make sense to them?
Yeah, and I think that's effectively, you need to speak their language rather than expect them to speak ours. So I actually really like the point about analogies. So when I talk to somebody about cybersecurity who doesn't know anything about cybersecurity, I use a very specific analogy which I know that they're going to understand about driving. So the concept of cybersecurity is very similar to when you own a car. Your car is a physical asset, and you put layers of protection around that asset. You use an alarm, you use CCTV, you put it in a garage, etc., etc. The concept of layer defense. That's a physical asset with physical controls versus a digital asset with digital controls. You put it into their language, into their analogy, something simple that they can understand, you're talking their language. And that's the key point. When you're putting it into a business context, I mean, that's an overly simplified analogy, but in a business context, leadership, they don't care about how many WAFs you've got. They do not give a shit what ports are open. What they care about is, are they losing money? Is the reputation being damaged? And are our customers leaving us? That's what they really care about. So it's focusing on exactly that point, translating our world into theirs rather than vice versa. And yes, Stuart, you want to go again?
I'm going to give the floor.
Hey, go on.
Do you want to steal the microphone?
Hi. So I just wanted to offer a different perspective. So I'm new to cyber. It's been a year.
Great.
So thank you for having me here. My challenge is because I'm very passionate about social engineering. And so what I found is my colleagues don't care. So I tried to talk to them about, I visited B-sites and InfoSec B-sites, it was amazing. And I wanted to talk to them about simple stuff like passwords, where it's basic. And I was ridiculed because, because they don't understand the consequences of, and I'm not talking about company level, like individual cybersecurity, security online. So, I ran straight to Stu and I said, can I steal your ideas? Can I present them the tools that they can use to see how much stuff is out there about them? And this is what I find difficult I am one of them. I don't speak your language, or I kind of do now because it's been a year, but I've never done it. And how do I break that barrier without threatening them? Because the amazing videos that Stuart showed, it opens your eyes. This information is out there, but they need to start to listen. So, any advice?
Make it real for them. Yeah, make it real. I completely. So I had a situation.
I had a situation in the organisation that I've just joined about 4 months ago where I had to sit in a boardroom and explain to them why they were going to give me £500,000 right now because there's a whole bunch of stuff that we've not done that we should have done. And I started with some simple slides, very easy to understand points at quite a high level, and very quickly watched their eyes glaze over. Then I hacked the CEO in front of him, and then they started listening. And I think that that's obviously quite an extreme example, and I had given a bit of a nod before that I was going to open his eyes to some facts, but making it real, putting it in a personal context, that's what I found is most valuable in the organisation. If you can embed a practice where somebody protects themselves personally, that good practice is going to follow them straight to the office. So I think, yeah, absolutely, make it real.
This is going to be a great conversation for the pub. So we'll move that one on. There's another question for you. I'm going to take it high level. What is the biggest threat to an organisation at this present moment in time?
Right. Okay, I was warned. So, the obvious answer is, of course, maybe data leakage, because it's one of the biggest known assets in the world now, with the biggest dollar sign on it. But so take that aside for a minute, and I'm thinking of like my own company and like companies. And right now, 2 or 3 things come to mind. And one is political unrest. So you think about what's been going on in Hong Kong, for example, over the last few weeks. And we know from a fact and the impact on our companies of high net wealth clients who are literally moving out their money out of Hong Kong into other jurisdictions. So that's quite a big impact for us, actually. Has a big impact on a high net worth business that we have as a key jurisdiction, for example. And then you have other areas like Brexit, of course, which have had a big impact. So political unrest definitely is a key threat to our organisation, to be honest. The other one, actually, which has come up recently, is the problem for us is relevancy. So what I mean by that is, for a long time we've kept in with, I would say, traditional banking methods, right? And research, which we did about a year ago, showed that about 70% of our individual clients are actually all the older generations. And the younger generations are literally kind of going down other routes to do their banking, these pop-up banks where you just do everything online with an app. And this is where that kind of digital revolution is coming in, which we're trying to do. But a key struggle for us is how to remain relevant. There is a kind of third point. I was going to say paralysis by analysis of regulation, because I'm up to my neck in it. And just to give a very quick flavour of the kind of what we have to deal with, that in 8 of our key jurisdictions alone, when you look across all the kind of obligations which are applicable to information and cybersecurity, we have around 3,000 regulatory requirements that are applicable to my policy and standards. And when you think of the enormity, and that's just 8 countries in the EU, and they're not always correct, that's the problem. They are not always correct. So I would say those are the key things, taking out data leakage, which I think are a big threat to these particular kind of sectors.
Cool. Any comments from the audience on what the biggest threat to the industry is? Or from the panel, anyone like to? Yeah?
I was going to say, as a software engineer, when we go into high street banks, like people have mentioned, we also see that people just sharing kind of passwords to the all servers and access, and something we promote is UCI, where people don't have access to the password, have a vault or something. And how can we, I guess, encourage more places to use a proper deployment pipeline where things are automated, people don't have access to these sorts of, I guess, important information?
So I come from a software engineering background myself, and one of the big key things that I found really difficult was doing applications, working with applications but having masked data. And I found that really incredibly difficult to do. So difficult so that we ended up setting up a company around it, because it's being able to have consistent identifiers through different systems, etc., is really difficult, and it does need to be centrally managed. Reason being is to apply consistency, so you can do multi-chain testing. So things like the TSB incident that happened, which lost 80,000 clients, so you can see what the damage of something like that actually will do. It's testing a chain of systems, but having each one masked individually. So you can't, you're looking at Bob Jones. Bob Jones is XYZ in one system, ABC in another, completely blanked out in another. And that's what developers have to work with. By automating that and having a real process around it, so all your systems are masked in exactly the same manner, those are the kind of things that can actually help. But companies like ours are set up to do that, but working with synthetic data and having that as a part of the pipeline is still not good enough when it comes to testing across every other system.
So if I can add a point, and that's why it was exactly the reason why I was late, is sitting down with developers, understanding their problem, understanding their perspective,
and giving them solution, easy solution, quick solution. I mean, I run architecture practice, and architect tends to just sit down and think and think and think. And that's right on some occasion, because you need to think about the bigger problem. So we are the defender of the structural element from a security perspective of an application, but we need to give solution. To develop my customer, if we don't make them happy, they will circumvent security. I hate to not give them solution, and hence work with them, understand what's their problem, and understand what's an enabler for them.
The only thing is, were you asking though, as a software engineer, how do you promote better practice at the places you go?
Absolutely. So
Right.
usually, well, from what we've experienced, the software engineers want to do it, but it's the client that I guess doesn't want to do it. Like, but if they can't, they're more reactive rather than proactive. When it's a problem, when there's a security issue, we'll resolve it there. It's like, well, no way. That's not still the milk. That's kind of stopped before it.
So I will say that in my experience, if you're coming in from outside as a software engineer to fix a problem, build some code, something like that, you're in one of the least privileged positions to affect that change, because it sounds more like a contract relationship, and very often contractors don't get to influence policy as much in a lot of cases, etc. But wherever it's come across in a world where you are actually with a team for some time, even as a software engineer, it has, in other words, as someone who isn't supposed to be talking security, that's what I mean by that one, it's just come down to saying, and repeating the mantra to the people around you that we shouldn't be doing that. Making sure that there is some level of message about what needs to be done with that, and once you actually get some level of buy-in, it's not, I mean, unfortunately, it isn't rocket science. Automation of tools, putting stuff in the pipeline is excellent, but first someone needs to buy the product, or agree to implement the product, or listen to the results. In my experience, a lot of those houses are very difficult to change from the outside. So one of the reasons I'm not contracting is because I like affecting change in the organizations I work with. I have a habit of getting my neck stuck in, and when I do that as a permie, I get stuck on new projects. As a contractor, I'm not sure I could easily solve that unless that was actually what I was hired to do.
Okay, I have two more questions, but I'm going to ask the last question so you can think about it. What is, for each of you, what is your call to action for this audience? So that is the last question.
Thank you.
The next, so you've got time to think about that. Powerful. A question again, is kind of open, anyone can take this. How can we write job specifications that would attract more candidates? Because there are some specifications that are a huge list of requirements, so you're only going to get a few applicants. So what can we do to attract more people to interview?
So I had exactly this situation about 3 weeks ago in a job that I had filled. So we have to be bold. We have to stop doing job descriptions the same. Here's the list of everything I want you to do. And it's got 20 certifications on it. It's got 50 years of experience, and we're going to pay you in chocolate mice. It needs to stop being ridiculous. That's the problem. Job specs after job specs I've seen are ridiculous. I looked at one, and the job spec was nearly 1,000 words. I'm like, that's a bloody essay. Nobody's going to read that. So my job description was 5 bullet points. 5 bullet points. Why? Because actually, what I want to know about the candidate, I'm going to find out in the interview. And actually, the candidate needs to know what they need to know. What are they going to be doing on a day-to-day basis? How much are they going to be getting paid? Who are they going to be working with? What opportunities are there to grow? And why us? And I managed to close that role. I've hired somebody who didn't actually have the confidence to apply for many cyber jobs. And at the time that they were at the final stage of an interview with me, they said, actually, can you let me know what we're going to do with this role, because I'm applying for another role as a business analyst. And I'm like, why a business analyst? It's not a cyber job. Well, I didn't think I was going to get this job. I'm only a year into my master's. I'm like, but this is the problem. This is why we're not getting people in our industry. She hired a lady into cyber. Woo. She is just her first year in her master's, and she was absolutely brilliant, switched on, bright, absolutely bags of potential. Yeah, okay, needs to do some learning. Don't And I think that's the problem, is we need to stop focus on what the perfect world is, because it doesn't exist. It's focus on what we need and what we can work with.
Any other suggestions from anyone?
Just conscious we should be out here in 16 minutes and I'm really going
Yeah, I'll have to say, and maybe I'm boring with this, but getting to an event like this, or getting to different events, or mentor people, don't write job description, or don't hire people by job description. Maybe reach out to the community and ask the community to reach out to their friends and suggest. That's pre-vetting people. Mentor.
Cool. Okay, now, call to action. I hope you've had time to think about this. What would you like the people in this room to go away and do? Short, keep it short, people.
Gabe, you want to go first? You want to start your end?
Well, I have two of them. I just have to figure out which one. I'm going to go with the first one because it's more achievable for most people in this room. Next time you're in the office or sitting down and you're chatting with a colleague instead of doing work or whatnot, and security comes up, talk a bit about your journey, see if they realize that it's an accessible industry. Do that every once in a while, talk about what you do, and eventually more people will realize they can jump in. Some of my best cybersecurity practitioners I know came in from marketing, came in from ops, came in from work. And some of our best engineers where we are right now came in from DevOps and security. So.
Okay, thank you, Gabe. For that.
Maybe think of a new term. So like data science was put into place. Think of something that could potentially bring more people to attract them, make it a bit more glamorous. Like I said, there's not enough women in the industry as well. So being able to make it less scary and less like STEMmy, like say with a statistician, is probably not as exciting as a data scientist. But almost put it into a different sort of way to be able to entice younger people into it. When I talk to my daughters, they are really heightened about security and what to do with their data, etc. So from that perspective, children are getting quite aware about this whole industry. So again, start with your children as well. My kids go and talk about it at school. So it's a small step, but it's a step.
Cool, thank you. Sam.
Right, we're all here, right? And we have several communities coming together, and everyone in the audience actually knew about this event when they attended. So my call to action would be to tell everybody else, your friends, your colleagues, about the communities, because we exist, we in London, we run these events for the benefit of everyone. And it's shocking how many people still have no idea that we actually exist and we run these events, that so many people find useful. Every single day I bump into someone who says, I had no idea, you guys had meetups, you had events, how do I join them, where do I find out about them? Please promote, because the more people find out about this, the more awareness will spread, this will help people.
All right, just very quickly, I'm kind of with Adrian on my call to action, and that's the schools. Unlike my fellow panellist here, who seems to have a lot of success with her daughters, my sons want nothing to do with it, because if their mum does it, it can't be much good. And it was for that reason that I actually started going to the schools, because I said, if you're not going to listen to me at home, I'm going to go and tell you an entire year about it. And that's the way it kind of works. So if you have that kind of angle and opportunity, then go for it.
So I'll be rhetorical on people who are mentor the hell out of people and convince other people to mentor. You don't have to be a super expert to mentor. So call to action, convince other people to mentor, or take a mentee and ask him just one single thing. I put my time in it, so you put your time in mentoring somebody else.
Okay, so I've got 2 points. So firstly, we're covering a lot on industry and getting people into our industry, which is great. And so I completely agree with everything that's been said so far. It's, my call to action would be, number one, pick something that is mystifying about our industry and stop doing it. What we do is security, information security, data security, cyber security. Pick a word, but make it not cyber, because it makes it a complete mystification of our industry. So, point number one. Point number two is, and I'll be quick, we're an industry that exists to protect. We are protecting assets in our day-to-day job. We need to be protecting people. It's fundamental of what we're doing. You look at critical infrastructure, you look at where technology is used in day-to-day life, we need to be protecting people. So my call to action to you guys is, you stop using the jargon, but take any and every opportunity you can, even just one, to offer somebody who knows nothing about security some advice that might save them some emotional stress, anxiety, and hardship, and do them a favour. And actually, you might find that that person is going to be the next person who joins the industry.
Great. Can I have a massive round of applause? And now we've got our closing comments from our organising people.
So call people no, or
Oh, okay, so we've got James, Francesco, and Gabe. And Sam.
What's that?
No,
Okay.
Too much. He's
he's jumping.
jumping Sam.
I'll just dive straight in. So guys, thank you very much for coming to our event. It's a lot that's been organised in a very short space of time by this wonderful bunch of people of bringing some really great industry communities together and talking about challenges. So we really appreciate you guys all coming. I hope you've enjoyed it. I'll say for the ISSA members that are here amongst us, if you want your CPEs, let us know. But events like this, where we actually start breaking down the barriers of our industry between different organisations, is key to breaking down the barriers to outside our industry. And I think for me, that's why I was so excited and so keen to get the chapter involved in what we're doing here, is because breaking down barriers is the only way to make our industry accessible and to make security itself more accessible. So by coming on and supporting the event, at the very least, you're supporting that key message. For that, I thank you guys. And I'd like to thank all of the other officers, for all the other organisations, and for Aon for putting this on. We want to do more of these events. So give us some feedback to your respective organisations, and if you liked it, let's do some more. But thank you for coming along. I hope you've enjoyed it, and I'll give one of the other officers a chance to talk.
Alright, so I'll be biased. Cloud. Start looking at cloud. It's easier actually than doing stuff on prem. You can rely on somebody else unless you come with one. Probably don't have, but I couldn't resist. But yeah, start looking at different aspects. Start looking at social media. Start looking at different things and get involved with us. So it's hell of a job to run these events, to run these things, and you don't need to be in cyber. You don't need to do anything else. Even if you participate, share stuff on social media, or write something, or activate your phone. Yeah, that's cybersecurity. Anyway, get involved. That would be my message. Sam?
Excellent. So obviously we have 4 communities here. So we have ISSA, ISSA Square, CSA, and OWASP. But I'm not going to be biased. I'm going to talk a completely different community. So we all enjoy coming to these events, but did you know, right? Because a lot was just spoken about schools and school kids. There are actually communities like this for school children, aged 10 to 16. They actually happen in London, and they're kids, the youngsters aged 10 to 16 getting together and sponsored by organizations like this, or various sponsors. They sponsor youngsters to come in and do similar events. They do presentations and they do workshops. And what they do, for example, they build robots, right? And after they finish building robots, they start hacking those robots, right? And then after they finish hacking robots, they start making some interesting stuff. For example, girls start making jewelry which displays like a message on the bracelet. And then that message is controlled by an app on a smartphone. And this is all done by 10 to 16-year-old youngsters. And it is all for 10 to 16-year-olds. So if you have children that age, please get them engaged very young.
Excellent. Well, wow, I would say. So 2.5 weeks ago, I hadn't had my July summer event, and I didn't have a room to have it, and my July summer event had moved to September, which seems to happen with boats. They move around, but this boat doesn't normally. Anyhow, point is, then Anne was extraordinarily gracious in getting us this phenomenal room on short notice and hosting us all here, and I suddenly had a different problem. I had 2.5 weeks to fill a 200+ person room, and that's not something I normally do, at least not in 2.5 weeks. So I reached out, and it has worked out. We filled the room. I sold out twice. I'm sure you guys had similar. So absolutely, and every seat was taken. So we also even overbooked correctly, because trust me, we booked more than the seats here. But yeah, that happens too. So excellent, this works, we'll do it again. I was going to next name and shame one of my senior members who's leaving, but I don't believe he's in the room. I think he already fucked off to the pub, which is really, really annoying. So, Thomas Fisher, are you gonna come out after I said that? No.
No.
Right. Well, my loss. If you haven't, and you know Thomas, say goodbye or whatnot, this might be his last public outing before he moves off to Dublin. He's organized B-Sides London for the last several years. He's my VP of Information Governance at ISSA UK, and he's an all-around cranky person. By all means, say hi and bye to him. He's probably at the pub right now, so if you don't know him, well, bug him. And so yeah, finally, but yeah, this worked. We'll try to do another one. We do, all of us have regular events. Look us up. I know that the slides had some of our handles before. Sorry? Yeah, that's a good point. The community members also includes the Many Hats Club, and the fact that we can get 6,000 cybersecurity professionals, aspirants on a Discord server that was built for online gaming, and actually drive community around that, while half of us are sitting here only reading emails or using ways of working that haven't really made it to the workplace yet, really shows me that we have a lot of work to do. So on that particular thought, I'd just like to say, I did mention a vote. We have a vote on September 26th. It's our other big event of the year. By all means, come along and check it out. It should be good. But yeah, cool.
Where's the pub, Gabe?
Oh, right. The pub is downstairs. So there's a pub right next to the entrance called Revolution. We have a space reserved for some of us there. Come over. Like I said, we didn't manage, because of how quick this event was, we didn't manage to get a sponsor in to cover our usual network of food and drinks. Normal ISSA service will resume at other events, but by all means, ISSA put a little bit of money behind the bar. If you get there first, it might still be there if my team haven't drank it. And yeah, downstairs.
Just lastly, the one thanks that we've missed is to our three wonderful speakers. Chani, Stuart, Adrian, thank you very much for speaking. You guys definitely get first dibs on the beers.
I haven't emceed an event unless I forget to thank someone.
And also just to say, the code model is going to record and distribute the video, so thank you.